recently an immunohistochemistry lab was added to my responsibilities. And the first thing I did was go to the lab, obviously, meet the people, and then learn how the lab operates. Everyone knows what an immunohistochemistry lab does, but it's important to know what the detailed operations are if you actually want to manage it effectively. So I looked at our proficiency testing data, I looked at our validation data, I looked at our test menu, and I observed just how processes work in the lab. And then I met with the quality manager, and I looked at all the quality data we had accumulated. And what I noticed is that we had a lot of different silos of data, a lot of different dots that somehow didn't connect. And upon probing the lab staff, it didn't really connect in anyone's head. It's something we accumulated because of tradition and regulatory requirements, but there was no excitement about doing anything with those data. So we sat down, and what we implemented was an Excel spreadsheet that we call the brain, because what it does is essentially function as an organizational memory. There are a lot of things that happen in the lab that after 2 weeks we don't even remember who talked about it and what we did about it. So this is a way to capture those, what we call events. But an event is not something that has gone wrong or that is bad. An event is something that we need to pay attention to for right living in our laboratory. So we add anything to that spreadsheet. For example, someone came up to me in the hallway and said, "This thing is not performing well." First of all, it made me realize that we don't have an organized complaint process, but it also made me realize that I have to go to someone else now with that information and hope that it somehow gets translated into making that stain better. Instead, what we do now is we open the spreadsheet, we put it in the spreadsheet, everyone can see it. The first column is the date when it happened. Second column is the brief description of what happened. Then we assign in the following columns what process it's in, what antibody it affects, what instrument was used for that. We have an immediate action column. And then we have a column in which we put hyperlinks to other documents which contain all our follow-up on whatever we do. So the important thing to note here is this is not a formal way that we use for reporting outcomes to the hospital or to someone else. This is a tool we use for us because things didn't come together in our head. So now we have a spreadsheet that does 4 things for us. First of all, it's completely transparent. Anybody in the department actually can go into that folder on our network drive and look at it. Secondly, it empowers people. It's not like reporting an event to a hospital incident system, which is a big deal, obviously. You can just go and whatever you don't like, you put in there, and you know it's recorded and there's follow-up and someone will pay attention to it at some point. And you can also follow up when attention was paid to it. Thirdly, it's very easy for me to model behavior, because someone might think, oh, only errors can go in here, or only the big items, or oh, that I'd rather not mention. But if I hear it and I see it and I want to pay attention to it in the future, I'm going to put it on there. And that can be a very minimal thing. And it shows people that even minute details matter sometimes and are worth following up. The last thing it does is it fits nicely into our process thinking. Because once we have accumulated enough data, we can create pivot tables that allow us to look at all the events that had to do with PT, or all the events that had to do with a certain instrument, or all the events that had to do with PT and a certain antibody. And what it allows us to do is, just by counting the number of events that happen in different parts of the process, is identify risk points in each process.